It's been a fascinating thing watching the media push hard against Disney's detractors in the political space. Some outlets simply refuse to believe or even cover the massive corporate, governmental, and financial crimes that are being alleged by a recent audit of the Reedy Creek Improvement District. While half a century of potential corruption go unreported by the mainstream media, the Associated Press just ran an article singing the praises of Disney's capture of a local government. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. I'm Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, where we talk about streaming, theme parks, entertainment, and video games. Today, we are talking about the Reedy Creek Improvement District and how an author for the Associated Press longs for the days when Disney could do whatever they wanted to the taxpayers of Reedy Creek with impunity. Not only is AP avoiding coverage of an audit that could bring current and former CEOs of the Walt Disney Company up on federal charges, they're publishing articles whining about Disney paying $2,400 of document requests for items that Disney probably doesn't even have the right to. Let's get into it. Disney says in a lawsuit that DeSantis' appointed government is failing to release public records. This is a story that appears on several news sites, and if you're not aware, Associated Press feeds stories to other outlets, and they basically are kind of for hire. They'll print something up and then sell it to other outlets. So you might see this in the Seattle Times or any other paper. They generally have good journalistic standards, although in this case, I'd say there's a little bit of opinion injected into this piece. This one by Mike Schneider, right there, smiley fellow. He sent this one out 2 days ago in the afternoon. Orlando, Florida. Disney has followed a lawsuit claiming that the oversight government for Walt Disney World, which was taken over by appointees of Governor Ron DeSantis early this year, has failed to release documents and properly preserve records in violation of Florida public records law. That is a fascinating statement, of course, because if you want to, I don't think you can do it today, but generally speaking, you can go over to the SIFTOD YouTube channel and you can see all of their public meetings, and you can go through all their records, and they post when they're going to meeting, and they've even posted their audits. So that's a little different. If you try to go back several years and follow that culture, have you ever gone back and tried to research the public records of the Reedy Creek Improvement District?
Ooh. No, but I wouldn't have expected to be able to get access to them at all.
Oh, that's interesting. Don't most governments, most county governments and district governments in the state of Florida, what is it that is about Florida that has caused the legend of the Florida Man to grow and grow?
Well, this wonderful thing called the Sunshine Laws, which means we have access to all of that stuff, including like court records and wonderful mug shots and great things that always make Lorena's show on Sunday super fun.
Oh man, I love those Sunshine Laws, and while Florida is weird as a Floridian born and raised and transplanted into other parts of the country as I continue my life here, Florida Man is something that always amazes me. One, statistically, if you put everything out there, the likelihood of finding something weird goes up. But also, I like to maintain that Florida is kind of a weird state. If I ever end up completely homeless, I am moving back to Florida because, man, if you're going to be homeless, at least go to somewhere where the weather is nice most of the year.
Yes.
Disney said in a lawsuit filed Friday that the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, often referred to as SIFTOD, has been so slow in fulfilling its public records duties that it has failed to respond completely to a request the company made 7 months ago when it paid more than $2,400 to get emails and text messages belonging to the 5 district board members appointed by DeSantis. $2,400, guys, this must have been awful for Disney. I bet they're really missing out on those funds.
Yeah, they're really looking for a return on investment right there.
I think if they were concerned with $2,400, that would be revelatory. But hey, what do I know?
No, this is before they had to spend the $8.61 billion to buy the part of Hulu that they already controlled. Oh my! Disney and DeSantis and the DeSantis appointees already are battling for control of the government in 2 pending lawsuits in federal and state court. One of those might actually go to trial. The other one will probably be thrown out. I don't know. Andrew from the Legal Mindset has different coverage than this, and he has he is the expert in this field, and we love to have him on. Andrew, if you're watching, let me know, and I'll send you the link. The public records lawsuit is asking a judge to review any documents that the district claims are exempt from being released, declare that the district is violating state public records law, and order the district to release the documents that Disney has requested. So Disney has requested these, and the district claims that these are exempt from being released. So, are they refusing to comply with a righteous order from Disney, or is there some question about whether the Disney company has rights to all of the personal text messages and emails that were done before these people were even appointed to SIFTOD? This is amazing. I don't think I would want the House of Mouse going through my emails and text messages. Anybody want to put their hand up as the person that wants to have Disney's corporate raiders going through your phone?
No.
I don't think that's going to be a good thing right there. I think we want to keep those quiet.
The only person that I would want rifling through my text messages, of course, is my good friend and compatriot and fellow big hugger, WDW Pro. Pro, how are you doing on this?
I appreciate being in the center where the hugging can commence. Thank you so much, Jonas.
Why don't you just shift over here next to me there, Pro?
Oh, buddy, old chummo Pat. Wait a minute. What are you doing? There you are. I thought you were just trying to bar me even farther away.
I'm officially naming myself your handler here. I
don't know how to handle that. Culture Space says it all. Thank you, Culture.
Let's see. An email was sent to the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. I love how this person seems to be framing this article as if saying SIFTOD versus Central Florida Tourism Oversight District creates some kind of difference in perception. Sometimes you'll see that when someone talks about a public figure or a government, they will find the most clinical or evil sounding version of the name, and then the more casual one. I was part of a research study back when I was in college on social media, and whenever people wanted to refer to President Barack Obama in a positive light, they would call him Barack Obama. And whenever the Republicans talked about him, it was always just Obama. So there is a bit of a framing thing here when they choose one name over the other, going back to this silly, often referred to as SIFTOD. I just cracks me up. The new lawsuit claims that the district is failing to follow public records law in other ways, such as allowing the DeSantis appointed, over and over again, DeSantis appointed board. They're repeating a message over and over again to try to emphasize in the reader's mind that this is DeSantis that is doing this. These guys are high functioners on their own, even without Ron DeSantis talking with them. To use personal email addresses and text for district business without the process for making sure they are preserved, and failing to make sure board members don't auto-delete messages dealing with district business. And this to me, sorry, here's a little bit more propaganda. The feud between DeSantis and Disney started last year after the company publicly opposed the state's so-called parental rights in education bill, with which, at least they're honest here, which bans classroom lessons on sexual orientation and gender issues in early grades.
Yeah, we talked about that framing before, right? And how we call something differently if we're attempting to frame it or attempting to make it look bad and so forth. This is an example of that. This is, of course, the Parental Rights in Education Bill, or if you wanted to be completely neutral, you could say HB 1557, right? They choose, or Mike here chooses don't say gay. So that tells you kind of where this author's coming from, just a little bit.
Yeah, it's in an Associated Press article. So, for the average person out there, they don't have the time, they don't have the effort to spend on figuring out, how is this being framed. They may think that's literally the name of the legislation, and I think that's the point. And I think it's a darn shame that news outlets have destroyed their credibilities by taking partisan and ideological phrasing and using that as if it is the actual terminology that would be, labeled officially on the piece of legislation.
Right. And the important thing here, I think, as well, is that AP presents themselves as an unbiased news source when there's plenty of opinion injected into this. I mean, 2 or 3 times a sentence, you're seeing some form of opinion push in the way that all of this is formed.
Simultaneous, Jonas, you also see several major mistakes in the part of Mike Schneider if he wants to shill for Disney.
Right.
The part in the article where he claims that Disney controlled the government for 5 decades, probably not something that Disney is a big fan of having out in the open. That's not in favor of the mouse.
Yes, and the, of course, opinion that they're loyal to the governor. I think that is a reasonable assumption there. But the fact that Disney controlled it for more than 5 decades, that is not something that Disney would want to testify to in a court of law, because I think that would look very bad for them if they go through the audit. And what are some of the crimes that are listed in the audit?
Imagine if Coca-Cola, if they had, let's say there was a Coca-Cola plant somewhere in the United States, and it was the big one. And let's imagine that Coca-Cola had somehow managed to corral and cajole the local government there to give them every single benefit they possibly could fathom, down to the point that they had been able to select who was going to be in the local government. We would all come out aghast at the idea that a public corporation could take over the processes of democracy. And yet, in this topsy-turvy world, there are those of one political alignment who want us to believe that that was exactly what Disney should have been doing, and darn you for questioning it. And that's bizarre.
Right, exercising full control of land. That one's not even alleged. That one's pretty much agreed on. Anyone who was a resident at Disney's whims, and as Valiant would say, at Disney's largesse. Or the allegation that I consider to be one of the most egregious, that Disney misappropriated at least $100 million of taxpayer funds without representing the other 57 taxpayers in the district. Culture, looks like you were about to say something there.
No, it's just all of this is just smoke, and this story by Mike Schneider here is smoke, and all of that was just smoke to cover up for all these crimes we just are mentioning, everything else. And yes, it is Disney's largesse that actually had any kind of residence. And you guys are 100% spot on when you talk about the fact that nobody that actually paid taxes within the district was being represented, not one of those parties, which are all those businesses.
So if we, this article is interesting because it gets several things wrong, as we've discussed. But the first thing that it gets wrong is that it alleges that Disney filed a lawsuit in order to do this. It's actually a motion to compel, which is very, very interesting. It's not necessarily a separate lawsuit. You can tell because even Mike here later on doesn't reference it as a separate lawsuit that's pending right now. He only references 2. So that's kind of a factual error right there. And then when you look into this law, yes, there are certain correspondence that have to be made transparent in accordance with Florida's sunshine laws. That is absolutely correct, but it's limited in that way, whether it's using the part, SIF Todd's internal devices, like their corporate devices, via their computers or other devices. Yes, any correspondence on there has to be turned over, and only texts and emails referring to district matters themselves had to be turned over. So,
I mean, they're trying to further embarrass members of this board by getting their personal correspondence. You're 100% right.
Right.
Yeah, and if they don't
members,
give them over, they write articles like this. Well, go
right.
ahead.
And I will say there are things that district board members do have to be embarrassed about that we won't get into here, because one of them is pretty spicy, but doesn't have anything to do with the ability to govern. Now, there is one more little, and actually there's 2 here. Around 50 out of about 370 employees have left the SIFTOD since it was taken over in February, raising concerns that decades of institutional knowledge are departing with them, along with a reputation for a well-run government. Well, let me say, when SIFTOD fully absorbs Reedy Creek and continues to maintain the employment of everyone that worked for Reedy Creek, And also, there's this issue going on that 50 right there. Maybe it's a bit understandable. Also, considering some of the alleged crimes, I could see wanting to run out of there as well. Anybody else see anything interesting about this final statement from Mike Schneider here?
Raising concerns of institutional knowledge being departing. Well, I think it's very interesting when you can compare that to the Walt Disney Company themselves when they attempted to move all their Imagineers from Glendale, California, to Lake Nona, Florida. Obviously, that didn't quite work out, and they lost so many Imagineers from that move alone. I think like 90%. Actually walked out the door, largely because of that and some other issues that were going on internally within the company. So it's interesting how they frame this up and the stories and narratives that they want to tell when it's particularly politically especially convenient.
The one that really sticks out to me, with a reputation for a well-run government. And the only thing I would say to that, well, that even under Mussolini, the trains ran on time.
Hey, well run in terms of the grift, right? In terms of collecting taxpayer dollars or a misuse or a misappropriation of public funds. That was really, really good. So I think Mike has a point here, actually.
Well, does anybody have anything to chime in here before we move on to the next topic?
Just know, if you want more information on this, I definitely recommend. I mean, you, Jonas, you referenced it before, but Legal Mindset, Andrew Esquire, on YouTube. I believe he has a video on this out already. Very, very informative stuff, and he'll give you the facts from a legal point of view for sure. But despite what you might be hearing out in the media, it's not exactly what is being claimed.
Right.
Well,
and go ahead, bro.
Ron Coleman and I, this was the topic of the video this morning. Folks, if you want a deep legal analysis on it, go check that video out when you get a chance. Don't leave here to do so. But the thing that I would say beyond Disney, what can we take away beyond just the localized story that we have here, is that at a more macro view, if you are not yet questioning the news when you receive it, I think it's probably wise that you do so. And if the last 3 years have not taught that to you, I don't know what will. But we here on this channel and in this show, and you, the audience, you know just how depraved the actions are alleged to be out of the House of Mouse, and you know the scope and the scale of even to the degree of criminality that Disney now faces over the next year. And this will be probably one of the bigger stories of 2024 that we'll all be covering. And so when you read an article such as this, what you come away with is a distinct feeling that the other articles that are not inside your wheelhouse, in which you are not an expert, that those may also likewise be just as biased, and that it may not be that you're receiving anything approximating the truth in these articles. And that's really unfortunate that the news organizations out there have wiped out their credibility such that even the Associated Press now, you read something like this and you come away with it, if you have knowledge of the subject, and go, this is utterly skewed, and it's activist journalism. It's activist propagandizing versus relaying reality as it exists on the ground.
Yep. And is this live for $5? Well, if your government model is the mafia, then Reedy Creek was well run.
Given the fact that we've heard from attorneys that the Rico laws could be used here, that's not far off.
Right. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think Disney is in the right, or do the board members of SIFTOD have the right to keep their personal emails, text messages, and correspondence private, even when they're talking about the Walt Disney Company? Tell us your thoughts, because we would love to know. This clip was part of our now regular Thursday live stream, which starts at noon Eastern time. Of course, if you're not in that time zone, just hit the notification bell if you'd like YouTube to just tell you when that is. Like this video if you like this video. If you know someone who is as interested as we are in this sort of nerdy stuff, then maybe you should share the link with them. And of course, please consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.